wrestler extraordinaire Taeler Hendrix. I believe this is our second interview, so this is our sequel.
You're absolutely right.
Taeler, you're always keeping busy, and you're really good on social media too. But first I'll ask, since we just had the holiday, how was Thanksgiving, and what did you do for Thanksgiving?
Jim, I was so lucky this year with how busy I am and being on the road all the time. It's very rare that I get to catch up with family. So it was wonderful to be able to spend Thanksgiving with my family. Really exciting. It's wonderful. I have such a big family. It's huge. So when I get to come home and be around for Thanksgiving, it's amazing. I get to see everybody, see how big all the kids have gotten and everything. It's wonderful.
And is that back in Detroit?
No, I'm not from Detroit. I'm from the East Coast.
Massachusetts?
Yes, sir.
So you head back to Massachusetts. Well, how was the weather then too? Because was it very cold? I know in New York during the Giants football game it was snowing. So how was the weather up in Massachusetts?
I mean, you can take the girl out of Boston, but you don't take the Boston out of the girl, you know what I mean? So if it's 35 degrees in the winter, to me, that's a heat wave. It's not uncommon. The weather was actually not bad. I mean, from what I understand now, it's a snowstorm, but yeah, Thanksgiving was actually beautiful. It was just cold enough to remind you that, it's the East Coast and it's officially the holiday season, but warm enough to where, at least for me anyway, to where I didn't feel like I needed to be, head to toe, gloves, scarves, doubling socks, and wearing earmuffs and a hat. And
Oh my gosh. Well, the Boston area, so, I mean, right now with the New England Patriots and what incredible run they had and are having, are you a big Patriots fan?
Do you even have to ask? Of course. And Brady we trust. I'm ready for this next Super Bowl to be added to our list.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's great. And also, we'll wrap it up on Thanksgiving. Did you do any of the cooking, Taeler, or did you just get to relax and let everybody else do the cooking?
Actually, this will be fun for Taeler fans to find out when they listen to this interview. I love to cook and I love to bake. So it's actually really funny. I'm probably going to call a segment soon Taeler's Tiny Kitchen because I live in a tiny house on wheels. I grew up cooking in the kitchen with my mom. When I was very little, we didn't have a lot of money. It was just my mom and I, and so I was at least 5. And so one of the ways we would make presents for people is we would cook or bake things to give people, and we would make things by hand. So for Thanksgiving, every year it's kind of a tradition in my family to bring something to Thanksgiving, or for Christmas do something handmade. So for Thanksgiving, this is another tradition that we have that involves with cooking. Since probably the 1950s or 60s, my family has been making this stuffing recipe that my mother added to when she started making it and teaching my sister and I. So we always make that the night before Thanksgiving. So we did that, and we brought that for dinner. I also baked gingerbread cookie cups that had like an ice cream to go inside the cookie cup. I made maple butter pecan cupcakes, and then I call them Santa's chocolate coma cupcakes. They're triple chocolate, and the inside is filled with like little gingerbread jimmies. And then I made mashed potatoes.
Well, the mashed potatoes, okay, but come on, you must have been the hit of the party there, especially with all the kids.
I love my family. There's a lot of kids, so we all always have a good time.
I know, but they're seeing all this triple chocolate and all this sweet stuff. I mean, that must have been great. I mean, do you watch Food Network at all? Do you watch when they have like Cupcake Wars and things like that on there, or you're not into that too much?
I don't have a lot of time to watch a lot of TV, but I do like to watch those when I get a chance. It's kind of like a guilty pleasure of my mom and I, and we also like love the magazines and stuff from like Food Network, HGTV, Taste of Home. I love all of that stuff.
That's so interesting. And now you're gonna really start taking this to the next level. You're gonna start doing some segments or do some things on social media.
Yeah, I would love to. I feel like like, cooking and just basic everyday life skills are stuff that's not really taught to younger generations anymore. When I was in school, they didn't teach us how to fold those fitted sheets properly. They didn't teach us how to balance checkbooks. They didn't teach us how to make meals that last. So, especially with how expensive things are these days and how people, really need to save money, pay the bills and so forth. And even groceries can be expensive, especially depending on where you live. So, basic things like, how to make meals that can turn into other meals that you can either freeze or recook into something else. Like, just those basic life things. And I feel like those are important, and those were passed down to me. I feel very lucky through, my mother and, people like that who got that education that, my generation really didn't get to have in school. So I think that's important. And so that's kind of something that I want to give back to my fans, because you never know who may not know something or may need, some positivity, like, hey, just because you can't eat out fancy doesn't mean you can't make something look fancy in your home. I have a recipe for a $10 salmon, so something like that, and that salmon can, feed a family of four, depending on how you cook it and stuff. So stuff like that I think is important, and it's also fun, and I think it gives a sense of confidence to people that, are just trying to get through day-to-day life.
And that's something that when you look at a lot of things, whether it's on TV or social media, doing things like that, it's interesting. People are very interested in that. So it can be a learning tool. It all could be something that they can do themselves. And obviously with money and the economy and able to save some money doing that, it sounds like that'd be a very interesting type of show. And when you have someone that's in pro wrestling doing something like that, it just adds more to it. It adds a little bit more of the bravado to it as well. That'd be fun. And maybe you could have some of your wrestling friends on the show too.
That's if my dachshund wants to share. He he likes the spotlight. We'll see.
So you mentioned something like that, and it's something because you do a lot with giving back, whether it's in the ring or out of the ring. Talk a little bit about some of the things you're doing, I guess, with wrestling, where you are giving back and getting involved in charity wrestling events and fundraisers.
That's something I'm extremely passionate about. I guess I would call it a passion project, but to me it feels more like life purpose. I know that may sound corny, but I love corny. I'm a corny person. I feel like the world would be better if there was more corny positivity out there, but I don't know. Growing up, it was very influential for me. We didn't have a lot, like I said before, it was just my mom and I. And I grew up watching my mother work so hard to provide for me. I still remember the first Christmas where I got toys under the tree, and I still remember some of the toys that I received. And one of those toys has actually been with me for 98% of the matches I've ever had in my entire career. So I feel like that kind of speaks to the type of performer I am, but more importantly, the type of person that I am and the person that I want to be when I finish growing up someday. I like to think of myself as I try to grow and be better every day. Every day that I'm blessed to, wake up and have another day is another new opportunity to be a better person than I was the day before. It's not always easy. Sometimes it's easier said than done. But I feel like the things that are worthwhile are the things that aren't necessarily easy. If they were easy, everybody would have it or everyone would do it. So getting to work with companies like MPWL and Lucha Patron, for anybody who isn't necessarily familiar with these companies, their mission is helping professional wrestlers have a better sense of purpose with putting their bodies on the line in the ring. They're giving a purpose to every bump that we take. They're making all of our fights, all of our matches for a cause. And that is something that I can get behind with every fiber of my being. Every bump I take, whether it's an injury, whether it's a fan smiling or booing me or cheering, whatever, it makes it so much more worthwhile. So when someone uses their hard-earned money to go and buy that ticket, I feel good knowing that not only did they buy a ticket for them and their family to enjoy some memories together on Saturday night, they're also donating to a cause through us wrestlers, which I feel very proud to say, not necessarily a pat on the back or anything, but it's like not only are we providing entertainment for families to enjoy together, we're also providing meals to families in need. I I know what it's like to be hungry. I know what it's like to live in my car with my cat, to go to wrestling school. I watched my mother, when I was growing up, struggle to provide and to make herself better so that she can be the woman that she is today. And by working with MPWL and Lucha Patron and performing for their fans and fans all over the world through social media, I'm getting to give back. I think it's amazing to say that myself and the MPWL and Lucha Patron roster have helped provide more than 15,000 meals. I think that's amazing. That's 15,000 meals that these families otherwise wouldn't have been able to eat. I don't think any child should go hungry. I don't think parents should have to explain to their kids why Santa loves other children more than them simply because these parents couldn't necessarily afford the gifts that some other parents can't. You know, so it makes me feel amazing, you know, knowing that I didn't forget where I came from, and I'm using that to propel myself forward and propel my whole fan base forward, the Taeler Army forward, and everything that I do, not just myself, but also through MPWL and Lucha Patron. That's amazing to say that I've helped provide over 6,500 pounds of dog and cat food to no-kill shelters. It's amazing to say that I helped provide over 15,000 meals. And for MPWL versus Lucha Patron to kick off the year on January 4th, I'm hoping to get to 20,000 meals. It's not just about, you know, feeding people for the holidays. It's helping feed people year-round. And I think that's amazing, and that's something that I don't feel anyone else is really doing. You know, putting our bodies on the line directly affects our health. It affects everything about us. But now it's for a cause. There's something good out of it that's not just about ourselves as the performer. That purpose is amazing, and I could go on and on and on about it. I think it's wonderful. And seeing the whole community of the Taeler Army behind that is even more spectacular. It's wicked. I feel so blessed, and I feel like if more people felt this blessed and this much positivity in their lives, the world would be such a better place. And then we wouldn't have people going hungry. We wouldn't have, you know, families struggling to buy their kids presents for Christmas or even to put a jacket on their kids' backs. You know, I think these things are important, and I think it touches a lot of people, even if they themselves haven't necessarily been hungry. They can imagine, and that's what makes it so powerful, is everyone coming together, putting on these matches to help provide meals.
And the National Pro Wrestling League, which is NPWL, is in California. So they're putting on these shows. And I know around the holidays, and we see some shows that are doing toy collecting, which is good. But I guess with MPWL, this is something that basically is year-round when they're doing their shows, having some type of cause related to their show. Can you tell us about some of the talent that is in NPWL, have been in it, and are in it?
I think MPWL and Lucha Patron have some of the best talent and upcoming talent. They work their butts off, and you're absolutely right, Jim. I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but this isn't just a holiday thing. You're absolutely right. MPWL and Lucha Patron do this year-round. So whenever you buy a ticket, you know that no matter what show it is, you're helping people feed their families. That's amazing. And not only that, they go another step further. I've had fans of mine in the Taeler Army who live nowhere near California, but they believe in my cause and these two companies' causes so much that they buy a ticket that they know they can't even use just because they believe in the cause and the purpose as well. And then what's great is people like me and NPWL and Lucha Patron will physically donate those tickets to people in the community. For example, special needs kids in schools or after-school programs like the Boys and Girls Club of America, people who lost their homes in the California fire so they can get a break from life for a couple hours. That's amazing. I don't know other people that do that. So there's people all over the U.S. and Canada and Mexico that have bought tickets to MPWL versus Lucha Patron, knowing full well that they could not go to the show, but they wanted to donate to the cause, and they wanted other people to be able to enjoy it as well. That's so cool to me.
And now you're mentioning... You're mentioning...
Oh, go ahead.
No, don't, thank you. You're mentioning Lucha Patron. Tell me a little bit about that one, because I didn't do too much research on Lucha Patron. Is that also in California then, too?
Yes, it's really cool. These two companies, although they work together, they go head-to-head to bring you different perspectives on professional wrestling, different styles, different types of talent, different types of matches that you wouldn't necessarily see anywhere else. It's almost like a brand war essentially, because you have National Pro Wrestling League and it's versus Lucha Patron. So I think that's really cool. It's two different companies who have come together to go head-to-head, but all of it's for the purpose of providing meals to families in need through various charities and food banks, and just generally speaking, helping the United States. And the roster includes, people from CMLL, formerly from Lucha Underground, Impact, former WWE superstars, up-and-coming talent from all over California, the East Coast. I mean, it's a very inclusive company. There's a something or someone for everything and everyone. And that's really cool, and what they do is these two companies, when they put on their shows versus each other, you're getting all kinds of different styles and different characters from each brand, and you're also seeing community outreach. So there will be different sponsors in the community, whether it's dental companies or pizza companies that will put flyers in the pizza boxes so it gets the word out there to provide more attraction for more families in need, and helping support different programs like the Boys and Girls Club of America, giving shout-outs to parents, things like that. I think it's really cool to see not only these two companies coming together to provide more opportunities for us talent as the wrestlers, but they're also doing outreach into the communities to help local communities and support local businesses. For example, there was a lot of local businesses that stayed open during the California fires that happened over the last few months. And they were basically doing meals for free for people who essentially lost everything in the fires. They had to evacuate their homes. Some people lost their pets, couldn't find their pets. And these business owners who are local, not chains, but local mom and pop business owners, kept their stores and their restaurants open, were giving out coffee, eggs, and stuff for free that they could do without power. And what MPWL and Lucha Patron do when they're putting on these shows is they're reaching out into the community, they're helping the community, they're giving out tickets into the community that were paid for by other fans who knew they couldn't go. So everything about this show, from the ring crew to the referees to the talent to the management and just the two brands itself, everything is positive, it's inclusive, and it all has a purpose. I don't know any other place that's like that. I couldn't say enough about it. It just makes me feel so amazing knowing that I work in this brand, and that I get to be a part of something that's bigger than myself, and I get to include the Taeler Army in it.
Taeler, do you work differently in each group or no? Because one is more, right? One is more of a lucha style, correct? The Lucha Patron, and then you have MPWL. Yeah. Or no, you just basically do the style that you do.
I'm always going to do me. My philosophy on professional wrestling from before I got in it and being in it for all of this time, I forgot to celebrate my WrestleVersary. My WrestleVersary was in October. Crazy.
Oh, no. Taeler, wait, what number anniversary?
I'm sad to say 13, but I feel like I shouldn't say that only because I feel like I didn't hit my stride until after 5 years in. So I kind of like to minus 5 years out of that 13.
So you're making it 8. So then you're going with 8.
Yes, I started wrestling when I was 17 years old. I was still in high school. I hadn't gone to prom yet. I hadn't graduated yet. I didn't even have my own vehicle. I just had the family vehicle. But so yes, I've been in it for a while. But my philosophy on professional wrestling was just being the most well-rounded performer and athlete and wrestler that I could be. And I feel like I am all of those things. I was always an athlete growing up. I played all kinds of sports. I always loved acting, so I'm a performer, and I put that influence into what I do. But I'm also a professional wrestler because I love professional wrestling. I was obsessed with it, just like I was obsessed with acting, and all of those aspects were what drew me to this industry and made me fall in love with it as a child to begin with. So when I am wrestling for MPWL versus Lucha Patron, I'm always going to be what I am because I can wrestle almost any style I want, depending on if it makes sense. I think some people do things just for the shock value, but it doesn't necessarily make sense. I'm a person that likes to perform in a way that makes sense. So would I go and Tombstone the Big Show? Probably not. That would make him look ridiculous, and I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. So that's not something I would do. Now, I'm also not going to call myself a luchadora because I feel like to truly call yourself that, there's a certain level of training and things that you need to go through. There's a level of respect that's earned when you have the ability to call yourself a luchadora. So for me, I'm a professional wrestler who can bounce in and out of styles, and I've always believed in that because it makes you a more versatile worker. So to answer your question, no, I don't wrestle any differently for either brand. I go out and I represent who I am, and yeah.
In representing who you are, I'm curious though, have you ever worn a mask for wrestling? And I know because in lucha, there's a lot with the mask, and I just was curious if you ever thought, even though you want to stay true to who you are, of course, but have you ever thought about wearing a mask at one of the lucha shows if you haven't?
I don't think wearing a mask would not be who I am. I think it's fun. I think it's a character. I think there's a lot of respect that goes with that. But I have actually never worn a mask. I've thought of it, and I've always been intrigued by it, but I cannot say that I have actually performed in one yet.
Because obviously you're working a lot of these shows, and a big culture with the lucha style is the mask. I was looking at some things on the internet while we were talking here, and I see him with the Lucha Patron. Although he doesn't wear a mask, I see Hernandez, who was big with Hernandez and Homicide. That's part of the lucha shows. But then I see some of the different wrestlers on the marquee, on the banners, and obviously a lot of them have the mask, and you mentioned CMLL as well. So that's why I was just curious with that as well. I see you on here too, but obviously you're not with the mask, but I thought I would ask you that too, because it's very interesting, and you, I guess, have learned about the culture of the lucha and the Mexico wrestling and how important it is, the mask, to them.
Absolutely. I feel like, you should always be studying, you should always be learning and trying to better yourself. And if you love something, you want to respect it with its due, essentially. And for me, there's such an extensive history with professional wrestling in the culture of Mexico. And to me, that's something to be celebrated, and it's something to be respected. People work very hard to get to the level that they're at, being luchadores and luchadoras in Mexico. So that's not something I feel to be taken lightly. When you have the ability to call yourself a luchadora, to me that's amazing, because I understand the work that you had to put in and the respect you had to fight to get that. Those types of things aren't just, thrown out willy-nilly. You know what I'm saying? Like, the person that gets to do that had to fight for that. There's a lot of respect. I think, that was one of the many reasons why I wanted to learn more, because not only do I want to be respectful, I want to pay homage to everything that represents. I think the wrestling history in Mexico is amazing, and I love learning about it. And their style it's incredible. I love watching it. To me, it's exciting, and I like seeing styles clash together to make exciting matches, and that's exactly what you find at MPWL versus Lucha Patron.
Do you know yet who you were going to be wrestling on the January show, MPWL versus Lucha Patron?
No, I do not. I have a mystery opponent, so what I'll say about that is it is a do not miss. It always keeps me on my toes, but I feel like I'm at the top of my game, better than I've ever been. I've overcome so much adversity to even be on this phone call today that it motivates me and pushes me forward. And like I said, I want to get to 20,000 meals provided on January 4th. And then throughout the year, I want to beat that even further. I want to keep going. I'm not ready to give up. I want to fight to end hunger, and I want to keep performing the way I know how and give respect to this business the way I know how, and show my Taeler Army that, to do something worthwhile, you have to face and overcome adversity, and that's exactly what I'm doing every day. So on January 4th, when I set foot in that ring, whoever my opponent isn't just going against me. They're going against all of my purpose, and they're going against the whole Taeler Army. And at the end of the day, when I hear that 1, 2, 3, I know my opponent will hail Hendrix.
Taeler, do we know if it's going to be for a title? And are you still the MPWL champion?
I am, and we'll have to see if it becomes a title match or not. I don't know. Everything is a mystery, and like I said, it keeps making me a better performer because I have to be ready for anything, and I will be ready for anything on January 4th.
Is there a women's champion in Lucha Patron?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Yeah, is there a women's champion in Lucha Patron?
No.
Oh, they don't have a women's champion. Okay, so that's interesting. Is that something down the road that you would set your sights on, being their first women's champion? I mean, with the way women's wrestling is today, I would guess that maybe they would have a women's title belt at some point.
Are you asking me if I would love to be an undisputed NPWL and Lucha Patron women's champion?
Yeah, I know. That's a silly question. Well, my better question is, do you think Lucha Patron will add a women's title belt to their company?
I mean, I wouldn't see why not. I think that is something that they would definitely want to do. There is so much talent, and not just in professional wrestling, but in women's wrestling. I'm not worried about being called a diva or a wrestler or whatever. That never bothered me. What does make me excited is all the opportunity with so much amazing talent. There is so many talented women in all of professional wrestling right now. It doesn't matter what brand you love. It doesn't matter what style you love. There is so many women killing it right now. This is the time to be a women's wrestler. It's the time. You know, I would have killed for these opportunities early on in my career. I was lucky in the sense that when I started training to be a wrestler, there was already like at least 3 established female wrestlers just in my hometown alone that had been wrestling for at least 3 years by the time I came on the scene. So I was very spoiled. There was a lot of girls within my 2-hour radius, I would say. But there was other girls, like in the Midwest, where there wasn't a whole lot at one point, and you had to drive hours upon hours just to get matches and opponents. Now, we're everywhere. This is the time to be a women's wrestler. We have women main eventing. We have women doing things that they were never even thought to be able to do. And now we're not only letting people know that we can do it, we're showing them that we can't only just do it, we're going to kill it. And that's amazing. So I think MPWL or Lucha Patron would be ecstatic to add another women's belt, whether it's tag team or, world champion, undisputed. I think the sky's the limit, and then we'll break through that and go into space,
Well, the thing is, too, with just how women's wrestling has evolved, it's interesting. I'm wondering, do you have some names of some talent that you can share with us that are with MPWL or come into Lucha Patron on the women's side who have wrestled there or are wrestling there?
We have had girls come in and out. We are always, I don't know, I love it because I never know who it is I'm going to wrestle. So, I don't know, it really has to make me ready for anything. I'm always studying girls' tapes so I can, if this person's my opponent, I know this, and this, just so I can be preemptive and prepared. The best offense is a good defense, right? And vice versa. So, I don't know, I always study. We have had Katarina. We have had Giselle Shaw. We have had Viperous. We have had Heather Monroe. We've had a lot of girls, and we also have a lot of girls that are talking about MPWL and Lucha Patron. We've had Casey Catal come in all the way from New York and New Jersey. We have a lot of women coming specifically because they want to be a part of that cause, want to be a part of the change. They want to fight for a better life, a better tomorrow. And that's really what it's all about. So we have people coming in from all over. We have wrestlers from Canada, California, Mexico, New York, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. We have people coming in from all over to do these shows, and that's one of the things that makes it so exciting to do MPWL versus Lucha Patron.
And that's really cool. And I'm glad you mentioned some of the names, too, because Katarina, credible talent. Tell me this, Shotzi Blackheart, too, has been involved in the shows?
Yes, she has been involved, and quite a few other girls, too. There's been quite a long list.
That's really good. And I figured, too, California, how is the wrestling out there? I mean, you have groups like what you mentioned, MPWL, Lucha Patron. California has always been noted as one of the bigger areas for professional wrestling. And you mentioned it. You see a lot of good talent that is there. How has it made you a better performer, a wrestler?
It's made me working for these companies has made me a much better performer because you have to be constantly evolving. If you stay the same, you're basically staying stagnant. And then it's like, oh, well, we've seen that before. We've seen that, been there, done that. You have to respect your craft enough to keep evolving. And that's something about me that I've always been able to do is I reinvent myself. I come back stronger. I come back better. And it's always something that, my fans can get behind. And being a part of MPWL and Lucha Patron was no different. Being out there, I got to reinvent myself, not just once, but twice, and evolve in my skills. You know, California, over the last, I don't know, probably at least 5 years now, they've been proving that they didn't die out there. They're going strong, and they're coming up and up and up, proving just why California is such a hotbed for professional wrestling. And that's really exciting to be a part of that. And not only just a part of that, we're also, at MPWL and Lucha Patron, it's something different. You know, it's not just the same old wrestling card or whatever that you could see anywhere. They have their own brand, their own, you know what I'm trying to say, their own style of show, their own type of entertainment, and their own shtick, essentially. So it keeps you very much on your toes. Like, for example, I don't know who my opponent is on January 4th, so I have to be ready for anything. You know, and that's kind of what's exciting. It's helped elevate other talent, giving them a platform to showcase what they can do. A lot of girls have gone on to get WWE tryouts, get their opportunities at AAA or CMLL, and all these other different opportunities after being seen on MPWL versus Lucha Patron. And not only that, they also got to help provide meals to families, help donate proceeds to local communities that, you know, were affected by the fires in 2017, I think it was. So there's a lot of stuff going on that's all very positive. It's kind of hard to not want to be a part of that.
Your goals have increased because you are doing this philanthropy type of effort, this giving back and helping with feeding people that are, whether they're homeless or they just are having a hard time. You mentioned the dogs and the animals and being able to help them at the shelters. So you mentioned all these good causes. And I'm wondering, are you living in California now or no? Or just going out there for the shows?
I live in a tiny house on wheels, so I live wherever I want, whenever I want.
Oh, you're a traveler. You're a traveler. You're living the life. You're on the road. You're Jack Kerouac. You're doing it that way. That's pretty cool. So you just travel around. You'll be traveling around.
That's a good reference.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's like an awesome thing. So that's so cool. I didn't know that. So you're actually traveling around, and then I guess it makes it easier too because you can go to different shows and all. That way, you're not like set in one place. Was that just part of the plan, or just that's how it worked out?
I've always wanted to live in a tiny house on wheels. I really like the movement and having a smaller eco footprint and having the movability to get up and go wherever I want. I have moved about, before being in a tiny house on wheels, I think for the sake of wrestling, I moved 15 times in the matter of less than 5 years. So that's a lot. It's quite a bit.
It is.
And so living in a tiny house on wheels is great. You know, and plus it makes me, I don't know, it makes being able to, I guess what I'm trying to say is my philosophy is I'm not a tree that has roots stuck feet upon feet in the ground, so I can get up and go whenever I want to. And that's kind of the lifestyle that I have, and by doing that, I'm able to do more in the world because I'm out in the world. So not only am I helping to provide meals for families in need and food for dogs and cats and no-kill shelters, I'm also making pet beds out of people's sweatshirts for pets and no-kill shelters. I am collecting prom dresses and jewelry for what's called Belle of the Ball in Boston, and they help girls that are juniors and seniors from all over the greater New England area who otherwise couldn't afford to go to junior and senior prom. I am helping raise money for Progeria Research Foundation to help them find a cure for progeria.
I don't know what that is.
Progeria is a disease that affects children, and it basically makes them age faster than the average human being.
Robin Williams did a movie one time. I don't remember the name of the movie, but Robin Williams starred in a movie one time where he was a bigger child. I remember that. Maybe he has had that, what you're talking about, but I do remember when Robin Williams did that.
Kind of, sort of. I think a better representation. I love that.
Do you know the movie? You do. You remember the movie, right, too, where he was like a big kid with all these little kids. He had to go to school, but he was already like an adult. He already was, but not. And he was an adult in size, but not in years. But no, that wasn't it. That was different then, correct?
It's kind of it's a great movie, but it's different. Like I was saying, a better representation of it is the documentary called Life of Sam. And it's all about Sam Burns and his parents. He's unfortunately passed on, but his parents have helped start the Progeria Research Foundation, which is actually, I believe, located in Peabody, Massachusetts. And they help children with progeria from all over the world. And they have done scientific studies, and they've done clinical research and clinical studies and stuff to find a cure and stuff. And Sam Burns, while he was still alive, actually did this amazing TED Talk that I highly recommend. It'll make people really put their lives in perspective and realize what really matters. I feel like if more people lived the way Sam Burns viewed life, the world would be such a different place. It really had a direct impact on my life. I remember watching it. And I felt so much passion, even though I, don't personally know or have a family member with progeria. I felt so much passion for that and inspiration from that I want to help give back. And actually, I believe the last time I was ever at WrestleCon, my fans were donating to the progeria cause. So that's really cool to see the Taeler Army doing that, and helping out. And another thing that I have been working on that drastically exceeded my expectations was crayon collecting. I collected more than 40 pounds of crayons for this charity called Share Your Colors, the Crayon Initiative. And what they do is they take used old crayons that otherwise people would just throw away, and they melt them down and create brand new crayons for underprivileged children and sick children in hospitals. So I've kind of I like to be investing myself and my energy and the Taeler Army into many different types of things, because I feel like there's so much out there in the world, I want to help with as much as I can while I'm blessed enough to be able to do so.
And it's amazing that you're able to do that. And I want to ask about a couple of things, because your life is so interesting. You are a very interesting person. I want to go back to the tiny house on wheels. Was there anything that was different about it as far as just getting used to it? Were there things you liked about it? There were things you didn't like about it? I don't know anyone that has ever done that. It just seems very... And did you talk to anybody that ever did that?
I mostly did all of my research online while I was on the road, on the independent scene. There's a lot of information about RV living, more so than living in tiny houses, but tiny houses are on the up and up. And it kind of makes people, when they do this, makes them more financially responsible, because now you're not necessarily looped into mortgages and all these other things that really tie people down in today's society. So many people talk about how they spend a lot of their free time cleaning these big houses or buying furniture to fill all these rooms that they never use and all this other stuff, and they just had bills on top of bills on top of bills. And that was one thing that appealed to me about tiny house living. And the stability to be able to go wherever I want to go was always appealing to me. I've always been a person that if I want to get up and go, I can go. If I want to do something because I feel passionate about it, I can. So there was a lot of research readily available for anyone to read online to figure out what works best for you. Living tiny, my lifestyle hasn't really changed at all, other than that I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. Without having to, worry about damage to an apartment or anything like that, I think the biggest thing about living tiny is just because you're living tiny doesn't mean you don't have things. It doesn't mean you can't have things. That's a very common misconception. It just means you have to stay a bit organized, because, a small mess looks like a big mess in a tiny house. But for me, I'm a very organized sort of person, so I like everything labeled. All my cans face the same way. I put things back where I find them, where I found them originally, where they belong. So I think that's one of the biggest things about living tiny is putting things away where they belong and staying organized. Other than that, I love it. It's not a decision I regret. I feel great. For my life, I always wanted to have goals and crush those goals and come up with new goals and have a purpose in my life. And I always wanted a dachshund. I have Slinky, my dachshund, and we work on different charitable projects together called The Dachshund Makes a Difference. And I love that. And getting to be in a tiny house on wheels is perfect for a tiny dog. It's great, you know, and just being able to do everything I ever wanted to do in my life. I think that's amazing. And having people that believe in me enough to support me while doing it is amazing too. And getting to help people along the way is amazing. So living in a tiny house just makes it that much better.
And you're able to find a spot. You're always able to settle somewhere too. I mean, if you're driving around and all, there are places for that. I mean, are there restrictions like you can't put that a certain place? Did you have to learn that part of it, or that's not even part of it? I don't know what I'm talking about.
I never have any problems.
Why, that's so amazing. That's just so amazing. Okay, so anyway, well, let's wrap this up, and thank you so much and all. I want to talk about this a little bit. Okay, so Leva Bates, Sue Young, Candice LeRae, Jessica Havoc, Crazy Mary Dobson, who's now in WWE, Lufisto, Angelina Love, Laurel Van Ness, who's Chelsea Green, Tessa Blanchard. I think I got some of them. These are all women that you've competed with and or against. Am I right?
Yes.
I think that's amazing. And that's not even all of the competitors that you faced. What does it say? And I know you talked about it, like the style and being able to adapt and do different things and being able to keep true to yourself. But when you look at some of the who's who list that you've wrestled, and oh, by the way, they've wrestled you, so you're on their who's who list as well. But what does that say too, that so far in this 8-year journey, okay, I won't say 13, I'm going to go to the 8, in this 8-year journey, what's it been like for you so far, and just all the accomplishments and all the talent that you've worked with and in the ring with?
There's so many thoughts that are coming to my mind that I'm kind of just trying to process. They're all so different, you know. That I don't think any of those women are interchangeable. And all of those matches were different and unique, which I feel describes the type of performers that we are, to be able to do that and to see them grow. You know, the Tessa Blanchard I wrestled isn't the Tessa Blanchard that people see today, so that just shows the amazing growth and the gumption that she has. She's a very, very, very hard worker. You know, she puts her all in everything that she does. Chelsea Green was probably my favorite tag partner I have had in my career. I loved working with her. I had a lot of fun. I wish we would have been able to do it more. That was a real bummer. Let's see, working with Jessica Havoc, it was really funny. I was like the poison ivy, I guess, to her Joker or to her Bane. That was always so fun. And, you know, getting to tag with Chelsea against Mia Yim and Leva Bates is just hilarious. So much fun, so much talent. I love these women because they're all very hard workers, you know, and they all had to fight to get opportunities, and I'm one of them. We're all so different, so we all have different goals and different ideals. So it's really cool to see, you know, those lives cross each other's paths and to see where they go. I'm loving what I do. I get a lot of questions about where I'm going to be or where I want to go. But the fact of the matter is I'm my own boss. I do me. I live my own life according to my rules and nobody else's. I go where I want, when I want, and I do what I want to do with my life, regardless of anyone's approval or validation. And I feel like that's a strong statement that I want my fans to find the confidence to also live by, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to die my death but me. So I should be living my life the way I want to, so that when I look back, I know for a fact that in my last moments that I am grateful for every moment that I did have, and that my life meant something, and that I achieved something with my life, and that I left my mark on the world, so that there will always be evidence that I didn't just exist, but I lived. And to me, that's one of the best possible things that I can do, and that takes a lot of love, guts, and gumption. And that's basically how I live my life, and that's what I do every single day.
Well, Taeler, you did have a tryout with WWE. You did work for Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. You did work for Ring of Honor. You worked for some big companies. In those 13 years, have you changed in your thought process from way back 13 years ago to now as to what you want to do and how you want to do it?
110%. You can't stay the same. You have to grow or you'll be grown out. You know what I mean? I'm not even the same person I was 3 years ago, never mind 13 years ago. 13 years ago, I was just a 17-year-old going to high school, wanting to be a professional wrestler, an actress, an athlete, and a philanthropist. And fast forward 13 years later, I'm all of those things and more. But did it go the way I thought it would as a little child looking at life with rose-colored goggles? Absolutely not. But a fan asked me in a Q&A if I could go back to any moment and change something, would I, and what would it be, and why? I answered honestly, I wouldn't. Even the most terrible things that have happened to me, I can't change them. Not just because, I don't own a DeLorean, but because if I did change them, I might not be the same person I am talking to in this interview. And that's hard because the temptation could be there to change that, like, oh yeah, I wish I would have done this differently or stuck up for myself with that or whatever the case may be. But that also gives the possibility that I might not be the same person. And I like me. I fought really hard for the right to be me, to be myself, and to live the way I want to live. I don't want to sacrifice that. I don't want to give that up for the vanity of being able to go back and change something. But what I can do is take what I have learned and make it better so that way I can look my younger self, subconsciously, and give myself a high five and be like, you're going to be okay, kid. I got your back. It may not be what you thought it was going to be, but you made it something better. That's what I want, and that's what I want to show people. That little 3-year-old girl that I was getting presents under the tree for the first time, I'm not going to let her down. At the end of the day, I need to be the adult that she needed as a child, and that's kind of what fuels me every day. That's part of my why, and the why is what keeps me going. And I actually talked about that in a blog and an interview recently on my YouTube channel and all over my social media, because I feel like more people need to remember their why. Be that kid, have that childlike enthusiasm. Remember why you fell in love with something to begin with, and whether or not it's worth fighting for.
Well, I think one of the main thing is you mentioned that you like yourself, and that's so important because we go through life trying to please others a lot of times that we forget about pleasing ourselves. And if we could please ourselves and like ourselves, it's going to make us a better person. I think it's important.
It is. If you can't love yourself, how can you expect anyone else to love you? I firmly believe in being free with your authenticity. People often show us who they truly are, but it's our own fault if we don't believe them. Like, we show people who we are every day, if you're living free with your authenticity. And for me, I am. I'm putting myself out there every day. It takes a lot of strength to do that because you're being very vulnerable. But, you can't let that stop you if you want to fulfill your goals, fulfill your purpose. And it's a very, very hard thing to do. And it's not easy, obviously, and it takes, work every day, but it's worth it.
Well, you do a really good job on social media, and you keep very positive, which is nice to see, too, on social media. And you encourage others to be positive, which I think we need more of, especially with that realm of media. Okay, we are wrapping this up, but thank you so much for taking the time. We spent a lot of time, and I'll tell you what, Taeler, almost an hour, actually. Thank you for that. I could probably talk to you another hour because you have so many interesting things that you've done and are doing. Now I'm gonna do this quickly, so we're just gonna recap a little bit of some of the things. By the way, good DeLorean mention. You're a big Back to the Future fan?
I am a big fan of so many things, and Back to the Future is definitely one of them.
You mentioned crayons and the great project that you're involved with crayons and collecting crayons and helping the kids get into the hospitals. Do you have a favorite color crayon, and did you enjoy coloring with crayons when you were little?
I did. Growing up, I think my favorite colored crayon was maroon, to be honest. And it's kind of funny because, I have dark red hair. But I loved coloring. I actually still have some of my coloring books from when I was a kid. And a funny little Taeler fact is I used to sometimes carry a coloring book and crayons in my gear bag. Because, it's a great relaxation thing when you're, trying to, calm down or focus on your match and things like that. So, yeah, I'm a huge fan of coloring even to this day. I feel like it's very important for kids. And that was always when I was a preschool teacher. I taught preschool ages 2.9 through 3. And then when they turned 4, if they were ready, they got to go up to another classroom or whatever. It was a very big, important thing for them to learn fine motor skills. So I'm a huge fan of coloring.
If we were to look in your bag, and I'm not saying anyone should do that, they should get permission first, but if we were to look in your bag, what coloring book might we find?
It's a Disney Heroes one that has Peter Pan, Hercules, and a bunch of other characters in it. 'Cause I'm a huge Disney fan, and Peter Pan is one of my all-time favorite Disney movies.
Oh God, I remember Alexa Bliss mentioned she was a huge Disney fan. Zack Ryder is also, I believe he is also, and then obviously with Chelsea Green, but Zach, I believe, is also a huge Disney fan as well. That's interesting because it's so cool to be able to, whether Disneyland or Disney World. Have you been to Disneyland and Disney World?
Yes, I have. I think it's one of the happiest places on earth.
You mentioned acting, and I want to know what acting, if there's something you did, whether it was school or in a performing group, a theater group outside of school, is there something that is like, here, I did this, I performed as this person, and did this play? What comes to mind for you?
I was in drama club. I also taught public speaking to 5th and 6th graders. I felt that was very important for confidence for them later on, whether it's, doing reports in front of other classmates or applying for job interviews and things like that.
Was Taeler Hendrix...
I was in high school. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, here's what I'm getting. Was Taeler Hendrix Juliet in Romeo and Juliet?
I'm sorry, what?
Was Taeler Hendrix Juliet in Romeo and Juliet? Did you ever perform in the theater or even at school with the drama club? Did you ever do a play? I'm wondering if you were like in Romeo and Juliet, Taming of the Shrew, or anything like that.
I did not do anything William Shakespeare, but I did read William Shakespeare. I was in drama club though, but I was more focused on other things that I thought would help me with professional wrestling. Drama club was obviously one of them. Public speaking. I did track because I thought it would help with my cardio for wrestling. I did weight training and all kinds of other things. Because the end game was always, acting and professional wrestling.
That is so good. That is so good. And you mentioned that you have a pet dachshund named Slinky. Did the name Slinky come from the Slinky toy?
It sure did. It came from Toy Story's Slinky. He didn't know his name when I got him. He was a rescue. He was missing a big chunk of his nose. Aww. And he didn't know what his name was. And I was just calling out names, and I happened to say Slinky. And he looked up, and so his name became Slinky, and he's been with me ever since.
Oh, you're a good soul, Taeler Hendrix. Oh, my gosh. All right, well, listen, thanks for putting up with some of those questions. And do you want to give a plug for your social media and then again for NPWL versus Lucha Patron?
Sure. I hope everyone listening to this believes in helping the world just as much as I do, whether it's environmental, whether it's humanitarian, whatever really, gets your blood boiling and passion to help do something for others. I feel like if you're listening to this, if I have one thing to say, it's when presented with a choice, always choose to be kind. And one way you can do that is by buying a ticket to NPWL versus Lucha Patron on January 4th, 2020. They are kicking off the year with trying to feed even more families in need. They've already provided more than 15,000 meals. It is my personal goal that after that January 4th show to be at around 20,000 meals. To purchase that ticket, regardless of whether you are general or ringside VIP, you will be helping feed at least 10 families in need. You can find your tickets at NPWL versus Lucha Patron. www.mpwleague.com/ticket. and you will see me live on January 4th. You can follow me on YouTube, youtube.com/Taeler Hendrix, or on social media. For Twitter, it is @Taeler_Hendrix, and on Instagram, Taeler Hendrix ROH. If you purchase one of my shirts on prowrestlingtees.com/Taeler Hendrix, every shirt through December 25th, I will actually be drawing 5 winners from the Taeler Army to receive a free gift from me based off of a tradition that's been in my family since the 1970s. Every cameo you purchase off of my social media from me will help me donate to St. Jude's Hospital. And then as of today, I will be helping donate to the Best Friends Animal Society through December 31st. So please choose to be kind. Thank you very much for this interview. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no, thank you, Taeler. And in closing, I was going to mention a couple of things, too. And also, obviously, the website you mentioned where to get tickets, mpwleague.com is the website itself, too. And then you can go there, and like you said, you can add the tickets part to it. And even if you can't make the show, if you want to donate and buy a ticket that way, that would be nice, too, if you're not going to be in the California area. And then also, luchapatron.com is another website you can check out, that you can check out information about Lucha Patron as well. And another cool thing, another cool fact, Taeler spells her name Taeler. I always think that's very cool. It's just such a neat way of spelling the name Taeler. And I'm going to ask you, Taeler, too, as I let you go here, but you mentioned the Army. So what is the name? You have a different name for the Army. So you call it Taeler's Army, or what is the name, or what names do you have out there for your group?
I asked my fans what collectively they would want to be called, and the majority said the Taeler Army. So they are the Taeler Army. They named themselves. I left that up to them, and I think it's really cool. They came up with something so badass that it makes me literally want to fight to, I don't know, show respect back for them, you know, and to keep pushing forward and watching, you know, the Taeler Army community just grow and grow. I feel like we're such a force to be reckoned with that it's so empowering, and I love it. So they are the Taeler Army.
And the Taeler Army's good, and you should always go with fans first, and I'm always going to say that. But I'll say this as an addendum to it, because of all the things that you do and that your Army does, I'm just going to throw it out there. Hendrix Heroes.
That's really cool. It sounds almost like that show, Hogan's Heroes.
Actually, you know what? I am a fan. Well, that tells my age. I am a fan of Hogan's Heroes and Colonel Klink and Schultz and that group. But that's not why I was thinking that. But you're right, it does. But I was just thinking because of Hendrix and then Heroes, because you guys are heroes and you're helping people out. But anyway, okay, enough of that. Thank you so much, Taeler. I appreciate the time.
Thank you very much, and you have a great evening.